Hi, this is Nathan Tintle. In this learning goal video, we're going to talk about how to state, justify, and explain the reasoning behind a test decision. We will use the heart transplant operations data to talk about this learning goal. In this data, 8 out of 10 patients at St. George's Hospital died within 30 days of their heart transplant. A reasonable question is this strong enough evidence that something is going on at St. George's that we should shut down transplant operations there? This question requires a yes or no answer. Is there enough evidence to shut them down? Yes or no? And this is a little different than how we've looked at questions before, because up until now we've really talked about a strength of evidence framework for this. There's more evidence or there's less evidence against the null hypothesis. But here we really need this yes or no decision. And so a question would be, well, how many deaths do you need in order to be convinced? You know, how many deaths out of those 10 patients? 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8? What is it? And really then that corresponds to how small of a p-value do you need to be convinced you have enough evidence that that null hypothesis, that the long-run probability is 15% is wrong, that the true probability of death at St. George's is more than the national average of 15%. I think for most people, if you were at 2 or 3 deaths out of 10, you would say there's not enough evidence, don't shut them down. Whereas if you're up at 7 or 8 deaths, and we're at 8 deaths in the real data, you'd say that's enough to shut them down. But what if you're at 4 or 5 deaths out of the last 10? Is that enough? If the goal is a yes or no decision on whether we're going to shut them down or not, we really should decide ahead of time how much evidence is enough. And this gets us to the idea of a significance level. A significance level is a value that you use as a criteria for deciding how small of a p-value you need to provide convincing evidence to reject the null hypothesis. In other words, how small of a p-value is small enough? And you're going to decide ahead of time how much evidence you need, how small of a p-value you need to be convinced, yes, this is enough evidence, shut St. George's down. One common choice for significance level is 0.05. So if the p-value is less than or equal to 0.05, reject the null hypothesis. Otherwise, that is if the p-value is bigger than 0.05, fail to reject the null hypothesis. So let's apply this to the St. George's data. If we used a significance level of 0.05, which is a commonly used significance level, then we reject the null hypothesis. That is, that St. George's long-run probability of death within 30 days is 15%. We're going to reject that because the p-value is much smaller than 0.05. So, should we always use significance level? Well, it really depends on your goal. If the goal is strength of evidence, which is where we started in this course, then no. We can say, you know, smaller p-values are more evidence, bigger p-values are less evidence. If the goal is a decision, and in this case, are we going to shut St. George's down or not, then a significance level is more appropriate. And make sure that you choose your significance level, if you're going to use one, before conducting the test, not after seeing the p-value. That's like cheating and looking at your data first.